Hello students, this is your history lesson. Today we are going to read chapter 9, The Decline of the Mughal Empire from Understanding History for class 7. First of all, have a look on your glossary. Dissolute. Dissolute is immoral and involved in improper conduct. Disillusioned, disappointed, and unhappy because of discovery. Raid. A raid is a sudden surprise attack. Plunder. Steal goods from a place or person, typically using force and in a time of war or civil disorder. Besieged. Surrounded by armed forces, aiming to capture it or force surrender. Retain. Continue to have something. Keep possession of. Virtual. Almost or nearly as described, but not exactly or in every way. Territorial. Relating to the ownership of an area of land or sea. Assassinated. Murder for political or religious reasons. Conferred. Grant a title, degree, benefit, or right. Viceroyalty. The office, position, or authority of a viceroy. Awat. Noun in British historical texts as Awadh or Oudh is a region and proposed state in the modern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Safavid dynasty. Safavid dynasty. The Safavid dynasty was one of the most significant ruling dynasties of Iran from 1501 to 1736. Bawati, slang term for butt, or is a slang term for valuable stolen goods. Massacre, deliberately and brutally kill. Annexed, to take possession of an area of land or a country. Semblance, the outward appearance. Decisively, in a way that shows the ability to make decisions quickly and effectively. Figurehead, a nominal leader or head without real power. Sway over, having a controlling influence over. Peninsula, a piece of land almost surrounded by water. Now, read chapter 9, The Decline of the Mughal Empire, page number 60. Aurangzeb's successors. Successor, someone or something that follows and takes the job, place, or position that was held by an other. At the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, another war of succession took place among his three sons Muazzam, Shah Alam, Azam, and Kambakhsh. Azam was defeated by Shah Alam near Agra, and Kambakhsh, defeated near Hyderabad, died in 1709 of wounds suffered in the battle. Who was Shah Alam? Shah Alam was born as Ali Gohar, was the 17th Mughal emperor and son of Alamgir II. Shah Alam II became the emperor of a crumbling empire. Bahadur Shah I. Shah Alam took the title of Bahadur Shah. Who took the title? Shah Alam took the title of Bahadur Shah I and ruled from 1707 to 1712. During these 5 years, he tried to pacify the Marathas and the Rajputs. Who were Marathas? Marathas were a Marath speaking warrior group from the present day Maharashtra who rose to prominence by establishing a Hindvi Swaraj. Shahu, the son of Sambhaji. Sambhaji was the second ruler of the Maratha kingdom. Was released and allowed to go back to Maharashtra, where he became engaged in a struggle for power with Tarabai, widow of the Maratha leader Rajaram. A peace treaty was concluded with the Rajput acknowledging their independence. In 1708, the Sikh leader Guru Gobind was killed while traveling with Bahadur Shah's army, and Banda Bahadur declared himself the Sikh leader. Who was Banda Bahadur? Banda Bahadur, originally from the Jammu region, is revered as one of greatest Sikh warriors. A violent Sikh revolt under Banda Bahadur broke out in the Punjab, and Bahadur Shah himself marched against him. Banda Bahadur was defeated and the fortress of Logar taken by the Mughals, while Banda Bahadur escaped into the hills. Logar is a historic town in Bilaspur Tehsil of Yamunanagar district of Haryana in India. It was the capital of the Sikh state under Baba Banda Singh Bahadur from 1710 to 1716. Bahadur Shah first had become emperor at the age of 64, but died 5 years later. He was a dignified, learned, mild-tempered, and generous monarch. A sovereign head of state. His 4 sons contested the throne after him, and Jahandar Shah, the most dissolute of his sons, came to the throne for a year from 1712 to 1713, during which the custom of living an idle life and spending time in song and dance became a part of the Mughal court scene. Zulfikar Khan, who helped Jahandar to the throne, became the chief minister and ran the empire. He soon became disillusioned with Jahandar Shah's irresponsible behavior and eventually had him killed. Farrukhsar was the Mughal emperor who remained at the helm from 1713 to 1719. He was the grandson of Bahadur Shah I. The Sayyid brothers managed to take control of the empire and put Farrukhsar, the son of Azmus Shan and a nephew of Jahandar Khan, on the throne. Who were Sayyid brothers? The Sayyid brothers refers to Sayyid Abdullah Khan and Sayyid Hussain Ali Khan Bara, who was powerful in the Mughal Empire during the early 18th century. Farrukhsar had a number of notable people, including Zulfikar Khan, killed, and his 4 year reign was a shameful period. The Sayyid brothers effectively took on the role of kingmakers, and Farooq Said was a puppet in their hands. He was a weak person, and despite plotting against them, could not shake off the hold of the Sayyids, who eventually had him murdered. As a result of poor government and lack of good advice, the economy almost collapsed and people suffered. The weakness of the empire could be seen when the Jats started to raid and plunder the areas around Agra. Who were Jats? The Jat people are a traditionally agriculture based community largely in rural parts of northern India and Pakistan. The Rajputs defied the authority of the Mughals, and Ajit Singh again had to be forced to submit to Mughal authority. The most serious challenge came from the rising power of the Sikhs under Banda Bahadur, who recovered the fortress of Lohgarh from the Mughals. Banda was besieged in the fortress of Lohgarh, taken prisoner, and put to death with a large number of his followers in 1715. The Sikhs did not dare rise up against Mughal authority for a whole generation after that. Farooq Said continued to plot against the Sayyid brothers, who now joined hands with the Marathas and surrounded Delhi, entered the capital, imprisoned and blinded Farooq Said, and finally put him to death in 1790. To retain their control, the Sayyid brothers put two brothers, Rafud Darajat and Rafud Dola, on the throne for a couple of months each. Eventually, one of Bahadur Shah's grandsons, Roshan Akhtar, came to the throne, taking the title of Muhammad Shah. Muhammad Shah 1719 to 48. Muhammad Shah ruled for the next 29 years but was a weak, inexperienced, and player loving king. The Sayyid brothers continued their hold, but they were now opposed by the other nobles at court. In the Deccan, Nizam ul Mulk established himself as virtual ruler. However, he was unable to control the rise of the Marathas, who gained territorial rights in the upper Deccan as well as Malwa. When one of the Sayyid brothers, Hussain Ali, tried to subdue Nizamul Mulk. Who was Nizamul Mulk? Nizamul Mulk was a Persian scholar and vizier of the Seljuk Empire. He was assassinated. His brother then made an unsuccessful attempt to replace Muhammad Shah but was imprisoned, and thus the power of the Sayyid brothers came to an end. Nizam ul Mulk was called to Delhi in 1722 to run the affairs of the state. He had been trained under Aurangzeb and tried to bring order, discipline, and simplicity to the Mughal court. The weak and dissolute king and his equally worthless courtiers resisted the efforts of the Nizam, who then had to go back to the Deccan, where he became independent in his own right as the ruler in 1724. Later, the Mughal emperor conferred on him the viceroyalty of the Deccan and gave him the title of Asif Jah. Muhammad Shah's reign saw the further breakup of the empire when provincial governors became rulers in their own right. Awadh. Awadh, known in British historical texts as Awadh or Oudh is a region and proposed state in the modern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Awadh became independent under Sadat Khan. Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa were under Al Wadi Khan, and Hyderabad became independent under Asif Jah. The Marathas occupied Mahwa, Bundelkhand, Gujarat, Berar, and Orissa. Muhammad Shah's reign was also witness to the humiliating defeat and plunder of Delhi by Nadir Shah of Persia in 1739 and in 1748, the invasion of the Afghan ruler Ahmad Shah Durrani. Who was Nadir Shah? Nadir Shah was one of the most powerful Iranian rulers in Iranian history. Nadir Quli Khan had overthrown the Safavid dynasty of Persia in 1736 and taken the throne with the title Nadir Shah. In 1739, the weak and defenseless territories of the subcontinent attracted his attention, and advancing through Ghazni, Kabul, and Lahore, he led his army to Karnal, within 100 miles of Delhi. In a battle lasting about 2 hours, his men had routed the Mughal army, killed nearly 20,000 people, and gained a huge booty. Muhammad Shah held talks with Nadir Shah, giving him rupees 50 lakhs as tribute, and there would have been peace. But a false rumor of Nadir Shah's death led to the killing of thousands of his men. This in turn led to a terrible revenge by the invaders and the massacre of the population of Delhi in many thousands in just one day. In the following 58 days, Nadir Shah's army looted Delhi house by house of all its wealth, the fruit of nearly 350 years, including Shah Jahan's famous peacock throne. He also annexed to his Afghan kingdom all the Mughal lands west of the river Indus. This invasion dealt a death blow to the Mughal Empire, from which it never recovered. However, some semblance of Mughal authority survived. Ahmad Shah Abdali's invasion in 1748 was decisively dealt with, and the Mughals were victorious in defeating him. Literature and culture. In the cultural field, Muhammad Shah's reign is a notable landmark. Urdu, the new language, came of age during this time and developed a literature. Arzu, the greatest Persian poet and scholar of his time, taught many Urdu poets. Mir Taqi Mir became the foremost Urdu poet of this time. Shah Waliullah translated the Quran into Persian, and Muhammad Shah gave him a building inside the city of Delhi to carry on his teaching. Who was Shah Waliullah? Shah Waliullah was an Islamic scholar, muhaddith, renewer, historiographer, theologian, and philosopher. Shah Waliullah translated the Quran into Persian, and Muhammad Shah gave him a building inside the city of Delhi to carry on his teaching. In music too, new trends took place and dance became an art form. Muhammad Shah was succeeded by his son Ahmad Shah, 1748 to 1754, who ruled for 6 years. However, he was blinded and removed from the throne by the powerful Wazir Ghaziuddin with the help of the Marathas. For the next 5 years, Alamgir II retained the throne of Delhi, but he was also murdered by Ghaziuddin. Shah Alam II, 1759 to 1806. Shah Alam II succeeded to his father's throne but was only a figurehead as a ruler. The Marathas had become all powerful at the court of the Mughals, and in 1757 the British had taken over Bengal after defeating the combined army of Shah Alam, Shujauddaulah, and Mir Qasim of Bengal. The Peshwa of the Marathas now held sway over a vast territory from the Himalayas in the north to the tip of the peninsula in the south. Who was Peshwa? Peshwa was the appointed Prime Minister of the Maratha Empire. The Peshwa of the Marathas now held sway over a vast territory from the Himalayas in the north to the tip of the peninsula in the south. When the Marathas captured Lahore in 1758, they deposed Timur Shah, Ahmad Shah Abdali's son. This led to the Third Battle of Panipat between Ahmad Shah Abdali and the Maratha Confederacy. Confederacy, a league, a situation in which states or people join together for a particular purpose. And what is Battle of Panipat? The Third Battle of Panipat took place on 14 January 1761 at Panipat, about 90 kilometers north of Delhi, between the Maratha Empire and the invading Afghan army, supported by 4 Indian allies, the Rohillas, under the command of Najibuddaulah, Afghans of the Doab region, the Nawab of Awadh, Shujauddaulah, and the Nawab of Amab, Subha Khan Tanoli. Battle of Panipat. The Third Battle of Panipat took place on 14 January 1761 at Panipat, about 90 kilometers north of Delhi, between the Maratha Empire and the invading Afghan army, supported by 4 Indian allies, the Rohillas, under the command of Najibuddaulah, Afghans of the Doab region, the Nawab of Awadh, Shujauddaulah, and the Nawab of Amab, Subha Khan Tanoli. Ahmad Shah Abdali. Ahmad Shah Abdali was the first emperor of the Durrani Empire. He is considered the founder of the modern state of Afghanistan. So Ahmad Shah Abdali, also known as Ahmad Shah Durrani, was Nadir Shah's governor of his eastern provinces. In 1748, the Mughal army under Muhammad Shah's heir, Ahmad Shah, had sent back Durrani's men at Sirhind in the Punjab. However, after Muhammad Shah's death the same year, Durrani successfully claimed the Punjab again. In 1757, he invaded Hindustan for a third time and captured Delhi, inflicting death and loss on the city, and turned back to his country with the spoils of war. The Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. Another decisive battle was fought on the plains of Panipat between the Marathas and the Afghan army. led by Ahmad Shah Abdali, who had been asked by Shah Waliullah, among others, to curb the power of the Marathas and re-establish Muslim rule in India. The Maratha Peshwa's son was killed in this battle, and the Marathas never recovered from this blow. For the next 10 years, no Maratha army invaded the north of Hindustan. In fact, the Marathas broke up into 5 independent states which fought with each other for supremacy. In 1794, Madhu Rao Sindhya managed to take control of Pune, defeating his rival Holkar and the Rajputs and occupied Delhi. But he died the same year, and the dream of the Maratha Empire replacing the Mughal Empire came to an end. Ahmad Shah Abdali had to return to Afghanistan without setting up an alternative Muslim rule in India, as his troops mutinied in demand of their overdue payments. Akbar Shah II, 1806 to 1837, Bahadur Shah II, 1837 to 1857. Who was Akbar Shah? Akbar Shah II, also known as Akbar Shah II, was the 19th Mughal Emperor of India. He was the second son of Shah Alam II and the father of Bahadur Shah II. So Shah Alam was succeeded by his son Akbar Shah II. In 1803, the British under Lord Lake had captured Delhi, and Akbar Shah became a pensioner of the British. He was allowed to keep his imperial title but was confined to the Red Fort. When Akbar Shah II died in 1837, Bahadur Shah II was allowed by the British to take the title of Emperor. At the time of the War of 1857, Bahadur Shah reluctantly joined in the movement for freedom from British rule. At the end of the war, he was tried by the British, convicted, and exiled to Rangoon in Burma, where he died in 1862. Thus, the dynasty of the great Mughals came to an end with the defeat in the War of 1857 and the death of Bahadur Shah Zafar. The end of the glorious age of the Mughals. So, after the death of Bahadur Shah Zafar, there was the end of the glorious age of the Mughals. None of Aurangzeb's successors displayed the hard lines and sense of purpose of the earlier 6 emperors. They had become used to the ease and luxury of court life and were unable to fight for long periods to put down rebellions. The courtiers, taking advantage of their weakness, intrigued and polluted. There were rival groups at court to gain the emperor's favor. The nobility turned into powerful kingmakers who put kings on the throne and then murdered them. The absence of a law of succession among the Mughals led to civil war among the contesting sons, which gradually weakened the empire. The divisions at the Mughal court worked against the unity and strength of the empire. Akbar had tried to win over the Rajputs by marriage alliances, religious tolerance and unity, and the abolition of jizya and pilgrimage tax. Hindus could also hold high positions and mansabs in his time. This was This was continued by the next three emperors Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. So, this rule and this custom was continued by the three emperors Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. Although Hindus lost faith in the Mughal kings when Aurangzeb imposed jizya. Yet he also abolished nearly 80 cesses, a tax, and it is usually known a tax on tax, that had troubled his subjects. The imposition of jizya can be disputed as one of the factors in the decline of the empire because during the War of 1857 both Hindus and Muslims relied around the aging Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar as their leader. Under Aurangzeb, the empire had become too large for one emperor to control from Delhi. Besides, Aurangzeb's prolonged absence from the center made the nobles bold enough to take matters in their own hands. The rival factions at court created mistrust among the governors of provinces, who decided to become independent ruler in their own right. Bengal, Awadh, and the Deccan are examples of this because the revenue from these rich provinces no longer came to the Mughal treasury to control and pay the mansabdars. The Mughal army had become slow and lethargic. Slow, and lazy. It was unable to move without a large following of caretakers. The Marathas were quick and light on horseback and could attack the Mughals from any direction. The guerrilla tactics of the Marathas and eventually the disciplined British soldiers managed to defeat the Mughal armies. Invaders from Persia and Afghanistan took advantage of the weakness of the empire. Nadir Shah looted, plundered, and burned Delhi and massacred its inhabitants in 1739. This blow further weakened the hold of the Mughals. Three invasions by Ahmad Shah Abdali to take Lahore, the Punjab, and Delhi and leave behind his son as a regent reflected the crumbling Mughal power. It took 150 years from the death of Aurangzeb in 1707 for the mighty and splendid empire of the Mughals to come to an end in 1857. The last two emperors, Shah Alam II and Bahadur Shah II, were only inmates of the Red Fort, and it was the Marathas and later the British who kept them as pensioners but ruled the land in their shadow. Now come to the questions. Question 1. Trace the causes of the weakness of Aurangzeb's successors from Bahadur Shah I to Muhammad Shah. Answer. Bahadur Shah I had become emperor at the age of 64 but died 5 years later. He was a dignified, learned, mid-tempered, and generous monarch. The most dissolute of his sons came to the throne for a year from 1712 to 1713, during which the custom of living an ideal life and spending time in song and dance became a part of the Mughal court scene. The Sayyid brothers managed to take control of the empire and put Farrukh Shah on throne. He was weak person and he became puppet in the hands of Sayyids. Muhammad Shah was a weak, inexperienced, and pleasure-loving king. He was unable to control the rise of Marathas, who gained territorial rights in Upper Deccan as well as Malwa. As a result of poor government and lack of good advice, the economy almost collapsed and people suffered. The weakness of the empire could be seen when the Jats started raid and plunder the areas around Agra. Question 2. What were the good and bad aspects of Muhammad Shah's reign? Answer. The good aspects of Muhammad Shah's reign. It was during his reign that it became more popular among the people and he declared it as the court language, replacing Persian. During Muhammad Shah's reign, Qawwali was introduced into the Mughal imperial court. Qawwali was reintroduced in the Mughal imperial court and it quickly spread throughout South Asia. Muhammad Shah is also known to have introduced religious institutions for education such as maktabs. During his reign, the Quran was translated for the first time in simple Persian and Urdu. Also, he introduced elite known as intellectual elite who were the men of art, music, and literature. The bad aspects of Muhammad Shah's reign. Muhammad Shah was weak, inexperienced, and player-loving king. Muhammad Shah didn't bother to strengthen the empire but remained busy in seeking players and remained inactive towards the affairs of the state. Muhammad Shah's reign was long, but his lack of interest in the affairs of the state had bad consequences. Provinces after provinces became independent. Instead of giving full support to knowledgeable viziers such as Nizam al-Mulk, who tried to bring order, discipline, and simplicity to the Mughal court, he fell under the evil influence of corrupt and worthless ministers against his own empire. Muhammad Shah's reign was also witness to the humiliating defeat and plunders of Delhi by Nadir Shah of Persia in 1739 and in 1748 the invasion of the Afghan ruler Ahmad Shah Durrani. Question 3. What events led to Nadir Shah's invasion in 1739? What were the results? Answer. In 1739, the Battle of Karnal was a decisive victory of Nadir Shah, the founder of the Afshari, the dynasty of Persia, during his invasion of India. Nadir's forces defeated the army of Muhammad Shah within 2 hours, paving the way for the Persian sack of Delhi. Muhammad Shah talked with Nadir Shah, giving him rupees 50 lakh as tribute and there would be peace. But a false rumor of Nadir Shah's death led to killing of thousands of his men. This in turn led to a terrible revenge by invaders and in following 58 days, Nadir Shah's army looted Delhi house by house including Shah Jahan's famous peacock throne. This invasion dealt a death blow to the Mughal empire from which it never recovered. Question 4. Explain the consequences of Third Battle of Panipat. What do you think has been the importance of Panipat in the Muslim history of the subcontinent? Answer. The Third Battle of Panipat has been regarded as one of the fateful battles of Indian history. At that time, the Mughal court was divided into 2 rival groups of nobles. The one consisted of foreign Muslim nobles, while the other one was that of the Indian Muslims. The Marathas put their weight on the side of the Indian Muslims. The foreign Muslim nobles then sought the support of Ahmad Shah Abdali, the ruler of Afghanistan. Abdali agreed to help them as he was interested in grabbing the territories of Kashmir, Punjab, and Multan. Therefore, the Marathas and Ahmad Shah Abdali came in conflict with each other, which resulted in the Third Battle of Panipat. It marked the beginning of the end of the Maratha supremacy in India. After Battle of Panipat, the Maratha did not try to replace the Mughal emperor, and the dream of Shah Waliullah to re-establish the Muslim rule in India came true. Question 5. Evaluate the reasons for the decline of the Mughal Empire. The following reasons for the decline of the Mughal Empire are: 1. None of Aurangzeb's successors displayed the hard lines and sense of purpose of the earliest six emperors. They had become used to the ease and luxury of court life and were unable to fight for long periods to put down rebellions. 2. The absence of a law of succession among the Mughals led to civil war among the contesting sons, which gradually weakened the empire. 3. Under Aurangzeb, the empire had become too large for one emperor to control from Delhi. Besides, Aurangzeb's prolonged absence from the center made the nobles bold enough to take matters in their own hands. 4. The Mughal army had become slow. It was unable to move without a large following of caretakers. The quick Marathas and later the disciplined British soldiers managed to defeat the Mughal armies. The British kept the last two emperors, Shah Alam II and Bahadur Shah II, in prisons and ruled over subcontinent. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.